Welcome, everybody. It's Chris Garrison here with Bigger Vision, and I have got Sean Mayberry here with me. I met Sean in another mastermind group, and I have been so impressed by his go-giver attitude. And you've obviously got some success. You obviously understand relationship capital. And I believe that is extremely important for every one of you guys to understand as well.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that very much.
Man, tell me, I got to ask you before I ask my first question, what does your hat stand for? 100% APY. Tell me about that.
Annual percentage yield. So we might think of an APR, like if we were going out to get a loan or something like that. So maybe we buy a home or something and we want to get 3% APR, whatever it is on our stuff. So we think about it on the other side for investment that it would be APY. So now we want to get a yield from our money. So really simple would say, if I invested $1 and I got 100% APY, I would have $2 at the end of 1 year, right?
Yep, exactly. Okay. Appreciate that, man. And so let me ask you this. I don't know your backstory very well at all, so I am very interested to hear it. What is the biggest thing that has changed the trajectory in your life? Because I don't think you just started as fantastic as you are right now. Maybe you did, maybe you were born with that, but you have obviously implemented something in your life that has pushed you to the level that you're at. And I would like to know what you have implemented.
Nice. I hope you don't mind me answering in 5 little parts. I'll make them kind of quick, but I have to say one of the very first things I really didn't have a lot to do with, but I was serving in my local church and I got asked by our pastor to serve as the head of finance. And of course I wanted to do, God things. I wanted to say yes, I wanted to give, but I had a real problem, Chris, and that was that my wife and I were newly married, that we were experiencing what I call the American nightmare, which is get good grades, go to university, get a W-2 job, those kind of things. And so because we had to pay, vehicle payments and mortgages and cable bills and all this kind of stuff, I wasn't tithing. And so how could I say yes to my pastor to be chair of finance when the church is preaching and teaching tithing and I wasn't there? And so I started praying about it. And I said, Lord, I know that I can't do this, and I know you want me to fulfill my obligations, so you got to help me. So I want you to count what I was doing as a tithe. And that probably seems like a weird backstory, but honestly, something else happened as a result of that. There became a desire inside of me that I wanted more, that I believed that there could be different. I started observing people who were doing better than we were, and one day I woke up and said, today's the day, and I resigned from my W-2 job and never looked back. So that was kind of one defining moment in life to say, go burn the bridges behind you and say, you know what? If there is more, we're going to have to make it happen. I couldn't any longer blame a boss for not recognizing the value that I contributed or giving me more. Funny enough, that day when I resigned, this whelming desire came over me to be in sales. And I'd never had any training, no expertise, whatever, but I just knew it was what I wanted to do. And I'd made it really clear to the company I wanted to be in sales. So the day I resigned, they call me into the president's office and say, hey, guess what? We'll be starting construction on your new office up here in marketing. You're going to be in our sales deal. We're going to double your salary. Guess what? My heart was already in a completely different place. And so I left and walked out of there. And I'm sure some thought that I was probably crazy or foolish. By the way, I don't recommend this because I didn't tell my wife what I was going to do. I just came home and said, guess what? I don't have a job anymore.
Well, what did she say?
She's given me grace over the years and stuff. But, some of those things, we can count on our spouses to do, like, I hope you know what you're doing. And I hope, we're going to be able to pay our bills and do our things and all that kind of stuff. What was amazing, though, is I quit. And I started in sales with no experience. And the very first sales job that I had, I made more in the first 6 months than I'd ever made in an entire year. The only scary part was when the company basically hired me, they asked me to do a sales assessment test, one of those personality kind of tests to figure out how it's going to do. And they told me, we're hiring you. This is just a formality. It helps us understand how to manage, people, that kind of stuff on a sales team. And, I was just a, contractor for them. So I thought, no big deal. They were just one of the brands that I was going to be selling for. And I got a call like a couple of days later from the owner of this product I was going to be selling. And he said, "You're not fired, or we're not terminating our contract with you, but you have scored worse than any person that we have ever assessed in our history." By the next year, I made more money than the owner of that business and their kids. So it was kind of fun.
I love that, because, it really, they spoke something negative over you, but your hunger and desire for that path outperformed any negativity that an outside source could have given you. And I think that's super important, because it really does start right here and right here. And if you've got those two elements, you can overcome anything.
Yeah, I mean, when God paved a way for me to be able to become a tither and to bless other people, I didn't take that gifting, as a light thing. So it became, how do you develop a craft in order to be able to do something well and serve other people? And as a result, I got blessed. So that was kind of my first, I guess you would say, impact on life decision. We have those defining moments and stuff for it. Second was a number of years later. So I was relatively successful in sales without any training, any kind of stuff. And one day I made a decision that I was going to go attend an entrepreneurs conference in Las Vegas, Nevada. And that exposed me to people who are entrepreneurial, and they were thinking very different than I was. Even though I was selling and successful and control some of my time and my location and those kind of things, I really hadn't grasped the way that other people thought. And so that was a tremendous thing. And I have to tell you, one of the greatest things from it really becomes my number 3. And that was finding a mentor, someone that would be an accountability partner, someone that was highly successful, that maybe even had some skill sets that I didn't do, that was full of grace, that taught me, about edifying other people and a number of things that really was big. And one of the things that happened first is he started asking, actually it was a couple for sure. They played a great role in mentorship, and I had to chase them hard. I was not someone in their circle. There was no reason for them to pay attention. I had to do things to cause them to start giving me some attention. And, after that period of time, it was wonderful. So one of the things, and I'll tell anybody that's not already doing it, a subscription to something like Audible is probably one of the very best investments that you'll ever make. Funny that you mentioned Go Giver. I hope that's okay to take on, saying be a Go Giver, because I think all of us can or should be. But that was the very first book that they had suggested that I read. I had been an avid reader of the Word of God and things and knew principles of that. But when I read Go Giver, it opened up my eyes to different principles and how the world really could work if I had the right mindset. And so that's one of the things I appreciate about your comments, your lives, your group, all those kind of things. It really is mindset in a lot of ways. And so I started being a consumer of information. And one of the best principles that I learned early on was to say, well, do successful people read more about success? Do they learn about personal development? Do they learn about principles and ways to be able to do things? Yeah, of course. But I was limiting at first the amount of exposure that I had to some of that material. And one day I was listening in and someone said, "I never listened to the radio." And I went, you know what? I'm never listening to the radio again. If I have a moment, I'm going to take that to learn something that either can bless my life or someone else's life. And so I started thinking about different ways. And so it became, I could do that when I'm sitting in the sauna. I could do that when I'm in the jacuzzi. I can do that on a treadmill. I can do that while I'm taking a shower. And pretty soon, the amount of material that I could consume was tremendous, but I really wasn't necessarily setting aside a lot of time for reading, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. I take most of my information in through my ears. So like you said, Audible, podcast, occasionally YouTube. I just have to leave my phone open for it to play. So YouTube is not always the best source for me. But if I sat down and read a book, I would fall asleep on the couch. Yeah. It's just, and so you adjust to whatever your lifestyle will allow you, but don't skip out on the content. So I'm right there with you.
Nice. I might be a slow learner, but unless a book is not quality, and I usually don't select books that are not quality, I almost always listen to it twice in a row, knowing that I am to some degree, not 100% concentrated. So, you make sure to pick up those things. So anyway, that was a big deal. And then I would say number 4 was exactly what you said. Once I started understanding what it meant to network with other successful people and getting involved in masterminds and hearing from others, the way that they thought about things, how they put deals together, how they interacted with other people. To me, masterminding is one of the amazing things. It's like a gift that's out there to everyone that only some will actually take advantage of. And so I try to make that a pretty good size priority in my life. I usually take 5 or 6 mastermind trips a year. Matter of fact, I was in Tupelo not too long ago. It's great to get to see you, Chris, and do some in-person kind of time and stuff. And so I just will say that's an investment that might be hard at first to be able to figure out, but man, it breaks you down in some ways and changes, causes you to change some about what your thinking works. If we have stinking thinking, we can't really do good things. So that's it. And then I'll say 5th one, and let this go. To me, there was really 2 principles. One is exactly what you already said, the principles of being a go-giver, wanting to help and to bless other people, but at the same time, develop relationships that ultimately you cannot outgive. It ends up coming back to you when you help people in some kind of a way. And the second one is King Solomon, wisest man ever, right? Said, cast your breads on 7 or 8 waters because you never know which one will return to you. So I became very, very focused about not only networking and trying to bless people, but also about how to create multi-streams of revenue that were as passive as possible. To me, the luxury of life is, if we can live it without limitation of our time, and if we can live it with the ability to be any place that we want to be, then we have a lot of freedom, right? So that's it. That's kind of my 5.